Yeah, her son started.
Oh. Have you started writing your speech for English?
No.
Ew, you have to do speeches?
No. You just have to write one?
That makes sense.
Because they were like, oh, let's add in a random speech to this book you're reading. And I'm like, okay, it has to be a page-long, double-spaced.
Oh, only a page?
But here's the thing, it's a play, so it would be kind of random to just have this one character break in to like this huge monologue. Really? And then like another person's like, well.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. No, I saw
I'm like, that's how conversations go.
And then it was like, the word to tell you when to derive it. Like they'll be like, derive the following function. Oh. Is it like here? It's all I have like a scene where like Lily finds out that
they were very strict. They said that they would not hear again until she had been
That's what? Yeah.
Yeah, I read
Hey,
Technically today.
Earth Week.
yeah. I know.
Earth Day is every day.
So cute. Every day is Earth Day, yeah. That's what that's You know what?
Hey man, is your water bottle?
Wow.
I love it. I find it still.
Why does it say E on the side? It does?
I really want to take it.
It says E on the side?
I know.
Yes.
I need to water this tree.
Does it say S on the side?
It's just like a little.
I know.
Every day.
$15.
I'm just shaky. Hold on.
That's what it says.
Every day I try hard not to.
There's not a little all over water.
No green. Sure. No, you shake it.
Shake it.
I know, I'm not going to.
I know. That's what happened. No green. Big nation.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that?
The church.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, no,
Okay, Yush, Josh, Sierra, Jacqueline,
Here.
Eden, October, Amy,
Here.
Suhita,
Here.
Thomas,
Here.
Catherine,
Here.
Eden,
Here.
Diane, Tommy,
Here.
Lucian,
Here.
Sohil,
Here.
Alexander,
Here.
Derek,
Here.
Colin,
Here.
Sybil,
Here.
Tunde, Amanda,
Here.
Eunice.
Here.
I feel something good about 10.
All right, I think today should begin with this point, which I will put up here momentarily. And it will not take too long.
Oh man.
It reminds me of IMSA.
That's me right now.
Yeah, of course, if we were to extend this, it would have the Panic of IMSA, but we didn't get that. So they used to call recessions used to be called panics.
Oh.
Why?
And the reason was because, well, they used to be more honest about it. People actually did panic. It was a emotional reaction. But the result of it was that people would run to the bank and try to pull their money out before the bank collapsed.
Oh, I saw a movie on that.
Right, so we in the 1930s, and when we get there, I'll talk about when we get insurance for deposits that wasn't really happening anymore. But this didn't exist, so people would run to the bank and try to get their money out. If they didn't get there, it's gone, right? So how does it go? Well, because the market is going down, and so everyone is worried that the bank is going to collapse.
Which it is.
They don't have enough money. No money to lend, no money to bank is gone.
Then all everyone's money is gone.
Exactly.
Oh, I would panic too. I understand.
Right. This is 19th century economics, right?
So,
You might notice here the war ends in 1865. The country spends more time in recession than out.
Wait, wouldn't them be being out of possession?
Here's the thing. What? What's that? No, I want to, and I will talk more about the details of this later, but I may have to cover some of it now and answer questions. This is what you need to understand. While they may spend more time in recession than out, the overall cycle, no, it's going up. Overall, on average. But this is the thing about data, right? The data looks nice and smooth because statistically speaking, you're looking at growth. What you don't see is that the economy looks like this. That's the business cycle. That's the business cycle. This is a crash. And the other thing is these tend to be very dramatic. So it might drop off, but then you might actually have a quick recovery. And so the overall picture is one that is gradual growth. But this is a lot of unemployment. This is a lot of people being put out of work and not necessarily having any money. I will give you some more details about that shortly. I would like, though, to keep this in mind because this is kind of the centerpiece of what we're going to be discussing. I want to ask you right now about Amazon. Yeah. I know it's tomorrow's Earth Day, but no, not the Amazon rainforest. So, no, I'm talking about Amazon the company. Amazon the company. Tell me about Amazon. What? Got your phone case from Amazon?
Ads.
Huh? They banned Confederate flags. What do you know? Any of you have or have? Except Confederate flags. Yes. I was going to get to the part where we talk about the business model of Amazon.
Ads.
Alexa?
Yeah. It's
I know what Alexa is. Why does that have to do? What does that have to do with the business model of Amazon?
That was false. Oh my god.
Okay. All right. So you are keeping Amazon in business, which is great. Tell me, what is the difference between this was a vocabulary word in my 5th grade class. I remember that. Yeah. What's the difference between that and this?
I don't know what a capitalist is.
It's when you don't like lowercase letters.
That's how you not do it.
You capitalism.
someone takes advantage of the situation and creates something new and then benefits from it. But then a capitalist is someone who
Hold on, he's onto something.
benefits from the capitalist economy and he takes in personal gain.
Oh, you had the entrepreneur part right.
Like the entrepreneur, he said starts the business and then the capitalist invests in it and then goes
Okay, all right. Jeff Bezos. Who's Jeff Bezos?
Someone.
You're making him so much money.
You're making him so much money. You don't know who he is. Jeff Bezos is the guy who founds Amazon. He's the entrepreneur.
He sent me a business card. I divide.
He's like, hey, thanks. He's the entrepreneur. So, in the Amazon analogy, who are these people?
The CEOs.
Everyone
else that
everyone involved with it.
Anyone who buys from
No, you can buy from them when not necessarily get capital.
People selling.
Investors.
the ones who invest.
Investors who are doing what?
Who are putting money in for equity.
Okay, so the people making it possible, they're investing their money and making it possible for this guy to realize his vision are the capitalists. Okay? The two go together, that's true, they do, but you can be an entrepreneur without necessarily having any venture capital that you can risk of your own, right? It's like Shark Tank, right? Somebody shows up, they have an idea, they want people to put in money.
Capital.
They're the entrepreneurs, and the other people are the capitalists.
Isn't anyone with 401k capitalist?
Yeah. I heard that on credit cards.
Yeah.
You could say yeah to a degree, but usually what you have is people who are taking part in the capitalist system, but they're not necessarily people who are specifically backing a specific entrepreneur.
Right, so it's like you hire Fidelity or something like Fidelity.
Right. What makes capitalism capitalism is that the entire system, okay, the entire economy is based on this model. Then you have capitalism. But you can be partaking in capitalism and part of that capitalism without necessarily being a capitalist, as I'm suggesting here. So yes, you're kind of investing, but
So you're using the system, but you're not necessarily.
you're little capitalists, not big capitalists. But yes, I mean, you're right, you are in the system, but
So say you're an entrepreneur and you own multiple businesses. So like if they take money from one business and they invest it in another business, does that make them a capitalist?
Sure. But here's the reason I bring it up. So let's move from Amazon to, huh? No, I don't want to move to eBay. I want to go back in time. I want to move from Amazon.
Don't we all?
What?
Amazon won, not Prime.
No, further back in time, like a whole century.
Amazon won.
No.
So it wasn't Amazon, it was Sure.
Oh, just let me go. 1870s.
In marketing.
All right, hold on. On the way to the 1870s, let's stop in 2009. What happened in 2008?
I think Facebook came out.
The economy crashed. Why did the economy crash? The housing bubble. And how did we end up with the housing bubble? Okay, so you had banks that were taking all kinds of risks with their investments that they shouldn't have been risking. How popular do you suppose bankers were in 2009?
Unpopular.
Huh? Very, very unpopular. So unpopular that people were just waiting for the prosecutions, if not trying to like take the guillotine out of them all. Right? I mean, this was serious hostility to bankers. The reason I say that we're going to stop in 2008 on the way to 1870 is because in the 1870s, these people all would have been involved in railroads. And they would have had the popularity of bankers in 2009.
Wait, the entrepreneurs
Yes.
made the railroads?
Yes.
I thought it was just like one.
Why were they only as popular as the
And then there was a bunch of capitalists.
I'm getting there. One of the big names who's
Carnegie, Rockefeller,
no.
Stanley,
They don't use Stanford.
Isn't Leland Stanford?
Leland Stanford, the guy who established the university that all of you want to get into.
no thanks. No.
Most of you want to get into Oxford? Over Stanford?
I don't know.
So did Kat.
The difference is at one of them they look like this.
Which one?
That's Oxford. This is the one in outside San Francisco. So this guy made a whole boatload of money. I usually talk about him because he's the one that has the university, and he tends to be the guy everyone knows. He started off; he was just a shopkeeper. He didn't have a whole lot of money, but he and several other shopkeepers, there were 4 of them, decided that they really needed to be able to tie their goods into this new transcontinental railroad that was built.
Did anything with that?
No. So what they needed, though, was investors to build the railroad. And that's how they end up making a whole lot of money. Now, here's the thing. The entrepreneurs in railroads in the 19th century tended to make a lot of money. A lot. Like Jeff Bezos made a lot of money at Amazon. But here's the thing about, if I go back to Amazon for a second. And do any of you own Amazon stock? Stock. Like you actually can trade Amazon stock.
Pretty sure my last time contract.
Well, your parents may have something for you, or there's a trust. Anyway, so the did you take MI test today? It tends to have an effect.
No, I get. I just don't want my own. I shouldn't even worry. I have 99 points.
Damn MI tests.
There's so many good quotes here.
What's
right
that?
now. There's so many good quotes I'm going to put on the Facebook page later.
Is what?
Thomas Durant, one of those girl entrepreneurs.
Yeah, he's a name that shows. Actually, I have some stuff on him I can tell you another time, but right now I'm focusing on Stanford. Until a few years ago, Amazon has been around for like 20 years. None of the investors had actually made any money. Right? If you're a capitalist, you're expecting the company is, by its good grace, is going to pay out dividends, which says, oh, thank you, investors. Here's some of the profit we're going to share with you. The only way you can make money in Amazon stock is if the stock goes up and you actually sell it. That's the only way people are making money in Amazon stock. Except for one quarter, a couple years ago, when Amazon actually paid out dividends. Now, there may have been others I just haven't been paying attention to. My understanding is they hadn't done it for like 18 years, finally paid out a dividend. Which means Bezos has been making a whole lot of money. The company itself has been getting massive. But the actual investors, the only way they can make money is if they actually sell off their stock. They're not actually getting anything back. Railroads were kind of like this, except even worse. The difference was they actually weren't making money. Let's consider the transcontinental that Lincoln finally gets the Republicans back in 1863. How populated is this part of the country?
There's still homesteads.
To this day, of course, you know, if you hate people, this is the place for you because you can just not see it. We finally know who's going to be the person to establish the homestead Hannah. Nobody is. Even to this day, we're looking at sparsely populated states, right? Even Nevada, New Mexico in particular, Montana, Wyoming. There's almost no one there. In the 19th century, you're looking at almost nobody. But they build this transcontinental railroad as if there is like this massive population in California that's desperate to be trading goods with New York. Right? This is the thinking.
Why not start trading with them?
Now hold on a second. Any of you familiar with, if we go back before 2008, the dot-com bubble? What was the dot-com bubble?
So it was like the first kind of tech bubble. It was in the 90s, and a bunch of websites got huge investments, and they all crashed at once.
So it was like anyone who was doing any kind of commerce on the internet, right? The internet, the internet, of course, predates this, but in 1994 we get the first browser, and it's at that point the internet is now open for the
What was the first
for the public. What?
What was the first browser?
No, the first. Well, what becomes Netscape? Yeah.
What about the gold rush? That was the 1830s.
By the end of the 1990s, you have everybody who's trying to bring commerce onto the internet. People were going crazy. Oh, this will be a great investment, and everyone is putting money hand over fist into internet stocks, and then they realize it's not going anywhere. or at least not at the speed that they thought. There were people who used phrases like, oh, this was my favorite one, the new economy is nothing like the old economy. I'm like, really? Somehow we've escaped capitalism and we're not in a capitalist society anymore? I don't understand. What do you mean the new economy is nothing like the old economy? If you ever hear anyone say that to you, and chances are there are a lot of people that potentially in your lives you'll hear a phrase like that again, immediately just stop listening. Okay? These people have no idea what they're talking about. Okay? And also, if they tell you, oh, by the way, you can buy this and it will only go up, it will never go down, chances are they're also trying to sell you a bill of goods.
Wasn't there some sort of scandal with the railroads where like people were printing their own shares, like these guys?
Oh,
got a stamp
there were
or
loads of
something?
scandals. I'm just getting started. So, this is the dot-com bubble. This is what it looked like in the 19th century. What it looked like was there's no population, there's no reason why anyone should be building a transcontinental railroad, but everyone thinks it's a really good idea because they're sure if they build it that the economy is going to go, well, let's just say the new economy is nothing like the old economy. It's a complete disaster. Nobody's making any money, but the government is giving the railroads land, giving it to them, plus 26 miles on both sides of the railroad. Free land. That's awesome. Like, so either the railroad doesn't make money, you can sell the property and make a profit. And what else is the government doing? The government is also offering subsidies in bonds, which is public money, to help the railroads actually get built. So that means these entrepreneurs have the backing of the government, public money, and the venture capitalists all giving, basically lavishing them with funds and saying, great, go build. And then as it turns out, you know, we're building even shorter ones, Chicago to Minneapolis. There is no reason that anyone should have built a railroad from Chicago to Minneapolis, at least when they did. Now, it was great for me, it's where my ancestors went out. Thanks to the railroad, they end up in Minneapolis. And then they make their way back down. But there's no actual, like, giant market that's opened up that actually would justify building a railroad from Chicago to Minneapolis. It doesn't pay for itself. So they build the railroad and then it loses money. And they're doing this all the time.
What about the gold rush? Like California.
Well, that's how Stanford ends up out there. But that's the 1840s. They end up out there. But there's no good reason to build a railroad actually connecting the whole country. You would have to have a whole lot of trade that would actually pay for that. That's a whole lot of track, a whole lot of workers. That's a whole lot of money that's being put out there. Big.
How big is it?
Also really big. In fact, have any of you ever been on vacation and driven through the Rockies?
Yeah. In the Colorado.
These are major undertakings, building roads, even now. So imagine in the 19th century where you're using primitive technology and you're trying to build a railroad through these canyons.
Yeah.
Do we still have the train?
Yes, it still exists.
Field trip.
They have to replace it, like the rails.
Huh?
Well, I mean, yeah, that was like 100 years ago.
Yes, they do have to replace the rails from time to time.
Wait, is it still working?
But yeah, the transcontinental railroad. In fact, if any of you,
No.
if any of you read, no, Jack Kerouac, Big Sur, he takes the railroad from New York all the way across the country, and he stops in Chicago, and then he gets on the train, and he writes these poems about his trip across the country, and then he goes down to Mexico.
Why?
Why? He knew somebody who had a house in Big Sur.
Oh, God.
And the guy lets him stay there. All of these still exist. You can take the one from Chicago that goes to Seattle. It's called the Empire Builder. I've been on that one. And if you pay the more expensive fare, they'll give you the train car where you actually can go to sleep, and you get it back.
How big are
Why would you want to go to Stanford?
They give you like it's kind of a large closet with a bed in it.
Isn't the whole point to not fall asleep and to experience it? Why would you pay for that?
Because half the time it's actually dark.
Oh. Why would you do that?
The unfortunate part, the way it's timed, you get daylight through a really boring part, and then it goes dark.
Oh my God.
So you're going through the mountains, you can't see it.
Wait,
That's what I'm saying.
30 hours.
Non-stop.
Oh, Chicago to New York? I thought you. Oh, California to New York. Oh, it's longer than 30. Oh, we're looking at 42 hours.
Non-stop.
Well, it stops in between, but yeah, it's about 42 hours by train.
How long would it take now?
That's now on the train.
How long was it then?
It's much longer, as you're looking at about a 5 or 6 day trip across the country.
Wow.
So, let's go to the Rockies. I've had students that would bug me for swimming sessions out in the mountains for years.
Let's go see Rocky.
1 year, I think.
Let's go
What?
see Rocky. Wasn't the movie Rocky 3?
Oh, let's go see Rocky.
there's 8.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
Rocky will do special on Rocky and
And then Creed.
So here's the thing about panic.
What's the first
Here's the thing about panic. At the time of the American Revolution, 90% of the population, vast majority of people were farmers, right? 90%. By the time that they've come out of the Civil War, that is decreasing a lot. We're looking at 60% in 1860. And by 1900, it's down to 37. And what's happening is that people are moving into the cities because of our opportunities. It's easier to get to the cities. The population is also increasing. You have lots of immigration, and so people are not necessarily going to the farms anymore. The other thing that's happening, though, is that farmers are having all kinds of problems. And this caused a little bit of confusion this morning. Let's talk about one very basic economic principle, which is supply and demand. Oh yes, that's about as basic as you can get. You have a supply of whatever it is in total. There's not very much of it, but demand is great. What does that do to the price of the thing?
It goes up so much.
Okay.
Did we talk about that guy who made the price of that?
Oh, mine's Scully.
Yeah, that dude. That's a fine demand security
It's just a joke.
They have so much.
It's like the diamond. The diamond.
He's just the only one to know that.
Diamond. There's a lot of diamonds in the world. There's a couple.
So we have the very same supply of whatever it is. There's a lot of it. The demand is low. What happens to the price?
It goes down.
Okay, good. You understand basic economic principles. And you also understand that this, while it's shown small, and this, which is shown large, can actually be the same thing. Right? It's relative to whatever your demand is for that supply. Although you could end up with more supply or less supply. That could also be the case. So this affects prices. Here's the other thing about the railroads. They didn't work on this. They kind of ignored that. The railroads were monopolies. So they were monopolies that had the backing of capitalists and the federal government, and there was no competition between them. They also were setting their rates. They had two rates. There was one rate for 150 miles or less, and another rate for the rest of the country. Now you're thinking, huh? So let me give you another example. So you write a letter. I know everyone writes emails, but let's say you're sending a birthday card, and it's not electronic, to a friend of yours somewhere in Illinois. How much is it going to cost you to mail?
$4.
See, none of you know. It's costing for first class stamp, which last I checked was like 43 cents.
That's a lot.
Okay.
You gotta buy stamps.
Now let's say, for example, you have another friend living.
Two friends? I'm so popular.
I know, Thomas, you'll have to think about this. Think that you actually have another friend. So you have another friend. This person, though, doesn't like people very much. They're living in Montana, waiting for you to join them. And it's really in the middle of nowhere. The nearest post office is like in the next county over.
It's 43 cents.
It's still 43 cents.
Wait, what?
It doesn't change.
We don't charge by distance.
We charge by speed.
Which means that all of the letters that are being exchanged, all the mail that's being exchanged locally is actually subsidizing the cost of sending things in other parts of the country. Right? That's how it works. The railroads were using the same model. So that whole transcontinental railroad, if you were sending goods there, it was actually fairly cheap, and everything was relying on all of the local markets to move the goods along. It's a completely stupid system. It was absolutely stupid.
That doesn't work.
If the railway.
It doesn't work.
Oh, I thought it worked.
No, it doesn't work at all. But that's what they were doing. Now here's the other thing. I showed you they had all these panics. Well, the farmers are also adjusting to all of the railroads that are now in existence. So in the same way that technology disrupts economies, you introduce the internet and you have a dot-com bubble, but it does actually change the way people are doing business, right? You introduce the railroad, and now it's easier to get goods to market. Well, easier in terms of technology, faster, but the railroads are charging these flat rates. So all of these farmers are also now adapting. They're not just growing for themselves anymore. They have to compete with all the other farmers getting their stuff to market. Turns out they all end up, say, growing too much grain. Let me explain how this all. So, in 1872, we can have a farmer with a mortgage of $1,000 that he's paying per year. He's selling wheat, for example, at $1.50 a bushel. In 1875, that same farmer still has a $1,000 mortgage, but now the wheat is selling at $1 a bushel. The price is going down because of supply and demand, right? There's too much supply, price drops, or not enough demand, either one or the other. The other thing is machinery. Because of the Hamiltonian model of putting up tariffs in order to protect the domestic manufacturing, the machinery is artificially high. And so the farmers are finding it harder to get the machinery that they need in order to make their farming more efficient, which may make it cheaper for them to grow, and then they can get by at $1 per bushel. But machinery costs are really high. And to top it all off, the railroads haven't changed their prices. It's the same price to get their goods to market as it was before, but now they have less money to do it. The farmers are going to be the source of incredible unrest. They're going to be the beginning of what's going to be almost revolutionary situation. Actually, in 1877, it will be actually revolutionary, which is what I'm setting up next week. But that won't actually solve the matter. And so farmers are going to organize themselves into something called the Grange movement. And the Grange movement is important to us because one of the centers of the Grange movement was this state that we're in. Yes. Huh? At least in the 19th century, yes. Did I tell you about Illinois' fiscal issue the other day?
Physical?
No, fiscal. Oh no, this is great. I love this. So there's an association for like administrators at the university level. So it's like we're talking about higher ed, right? So the administrators have an association they all belong to, and their organization, the association, just published a study because they wanted to know how much states are contributing to higher education, like per student. So, like, if you add it all up and average it out, they found that states, if you just take 49 states, you take 49 of the states.
Which one?
I'm going to tell you in a second. 49 of the states, and you take the total state contribution and average it per the student population, they've increased the amount of support they've been giving to students by about 3.2% since last year. That's good. The problem is if you add in the 50th state, it turns out that increase of 3.2 drops to not -2.
What?
The situation here is so bad that it affects the entire average nationally.
What's the situation? Like, what are we doing?
We've defunded the universities by 25% per year over the last 3 years. That's like 75%. How did we stop? Apparently we have to wait for another election. Because the last election didn't fix the problem.
When's the next election?
The next election is in 2018.
Hey, I can vote.
Yeah. The expectation actually is that the situation with the universities is probably going to stay as it is for the foreseeable future. The two sides, the problem isn't the Illinois Senate. Those people are actually doing their jobs. The problem is the House, led by everyone's favorite Illinoisan, Mike Madigan, and the governor, led by everyone's second other favorite Illinoisan, Bruce Reynolds. And the two of them, they don't even speak. So good luck getting it come.
I'm voting for the taller candidate.
Because that's the way people
You know what I
always
mean?
do it. The tallest candidate always.
How tall was
You're a font of trivia.
Wait, what was
I
it?
just
How many? Like 7. That's really everything I had in my mind. It's like tall, but he's not like freakish. Like 4 feet.
My dad's taller than Abe Lincoln.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely over 7 feet with a hat. So anyway, so the farmers are going to form this Grange movement, and we could also say in some ways things haven't changed that much. Illinois produces 3 major agricultural crops: corn, soy, and 90% of North America's pumpkins. What? Did you also know that those pumpkins are concentrated in one county in Illinois? Oh, you're not from the county, are you?
No, I'm
What's that?
It's not Will.
I don't remember. No, it's not Will. It's just south of where we are, like 2 counties down. No, it's the next one over. We have to go south. But no, yes, Chi-Town. One of the things that these people want, it begins, as I point out here, as more of a social and educational organization. They want to be able to address some of the issues of supply and demand by, they can't afford to build big storage units themselves, it's too expensive. So they want a way to be able to store their crops in warehouses. Like Range, you can do that for a time. They also want regulation of the railroads, which doesn't exist at that time. Here are these monopolies, and they can charge whatever they want. One of the reasons that they're the most despised people around.
They're the richest,
Eventually, it's going to grow into not just a social organization, it's going to be this political movement, and it's going to start to transform. There are going to be several different political movements, one after the other, sometimes overlapping, that all come together, and there will be overall 4 of them. The Grange, the Farmers Alliance, the Populist Party, and then the Progressives. And all of them kind of borrowing ideas from each other, and over the course of several decades, 4 constitutional amendments and a bunch of reforms are going to follow. Some of their ideas will be realized, some of them will not.
Do they make their own party, like one big?
I'll get to that. So the Midwest is the center of the Grange. In fact, the founder, the guy who was on the last slide, Kelly, Oliver Kelly, I believe, was in Ireland. But every state had some kind of organization, some kind of grain organization. They do establish these cooperatives. These co-ops are owned by the people running them. That's the middle. Like actually over here, Woodman's, it's actually got a co-op model. So technically the employees are owners of it as well. Usually companies like Woodman's, it's there's a slightly different structure than these kinds of co-ops, but the idea is the same as that.
They only take cash.
Were you planning to rack up a big, credit card debt, or?
Well, I mean,
What? They wouldn't let me use a
I
debit
tried to buy
card.
my card. I was like, I can't find it because I was at self-checkout. And they're like, you know, they call it. I'm like, fine.
I guess I won't be taking these groceries.
They went to Walmart. Yeah, that's fine.
So they're pushing for a bunch of things like reduced storage rates, reduced freight rates. They're pushing on the railroads in particular. And they will eventually also ask that laws will make it illegal for railroads to fix prices and to privilege certain customers. Here's the other thing you need to know. This kind of popular movement where people are pushing back against, in this case, a specific industry, is made difficult by the fact that, remember I told you that Grant will oversee the most corrupt administration in American history? Well, there's a reason for that, which is that the railroads are also responsible for a tremendous amount of corruption. They were bribing public officials. William Stanford's letters, as it turns out, include all kinds of not even veiled references to congressmen who need to be bought in order to get some privileges. There was an incredible amount of corruption. The favorite tactic that the railroads were using is to give free tickets to the people in Congress and at the state level too. Give them free rides, let them take the train wherever they want. And then they'll do you favors.
Like what?
Like not passing regulations on your railroad that the farmers might want. And here's the thing, those same congressmen and the same state legislators have to represent the farmers. But here are the railroads like, ignore the farmers, here's some free tickets.
So why don't the farmers just say, well, okay, we won't give you food?
Well, first of all, it's interesting you should bring that up because, as I said, this movement does grow, and they are going to actually take action. There will be several of them. One reason why it doesn't necessarily go there right away is because, first, you have to coordinate it. You'd have to have a whole bunch of people do it because otherwise the people are like, I don't want to be part of your boycott. We're going to sell our stuff. That's the first problem. The second problem is, even if they can pull it off, they don't know how long it will last. And these people, if they don't have a whole lot of overhead, which means they don't have a whole lot of cash on hand or money themselves, are going to end up starving before they starve out everyone else.
Well, then they would just make like the few farmers that are still producing goods very rich.
well, that's what I was just suggesting. So if you don't have everyone on board, then the ones who defy it are going to come out very well. And so this is part of the problem with taking that, with going in that direction. So they try to organize themselves politically, and as I said, they're going to get really, really big. Now that was the Midwest, and while there are ranges in every single state, in the South they're going to have a slightly different direction. These are the people who are going to create this other group, the Farmers Alliance, and there will be a little overlap between the range and the Farmers Alliance. But again, the reason we go into farmers is because eventually there's going to be this incredible unity. In fact, can you guess, during this class, the one place in the country where you would find urban workers and farmers together trying to really create the kind of revolution that you were just suggesting? No. No?
Virginia.
When you get it, or when I tell you, it's going to be so incredibly obvious.
Illinois.
No. Good guess, not Illinois.
North Carolina.
West Virginia.
Alaska.
The district of Alaska.
Kansas!
I said it again.
You need to say it louder, I didn't hear you.
Oh wait, I said Kentucky.
Kansas! Kansas will be the one place where it really gets incredibly radical, and that should not surprise you. Kansas was just that kind of place.
Everything is legal in Kansas.
The state. Although Kansas City, Kansas, will have the biggest concentration.
What about Kansas City, Missouri?
Well, that's just across the state line, but Kansas. I give you a few examples of like what's going on. So in the South, it's not grain, it's cotton. There is a racial component to this too, as I pointed out on the slide before this. But there's too much cotton that's actually being produced, and that's going to mean too much supply, prices are going to come down. Did you have a question, Josh? Glut. Glut. A big increase. And so you have people in the West, for example, who have been using mortgages to pay for things like seed fertilizer. When the prices drop and they can't pay back those mortgages, like that $1,000 one I mentioned earlier on, they risk losing everything, including the farm. And then they're going from being poor farmers to being destitute. And so, with all of the panics, as I told you, it may be overall an increase. And this is all fine and good, statistically speaking, to say, wow, we were going through an incredible growth period. But this is over a 50-year period, if in the short term what you're experiencing is this, it's a slightly different perspective. And so the farmers are going to react. They're going to be the first ones to try to come up with something. Now, one of the things they're going to do, and this is the last point I'll make today, they're also going to be pushing for this bimetallism, which is the idea that there's a gold standard and a silver standard. Remember mercantilism? What was the thinking behind that? Yeah, but what was and that's true. What was the other part about the using gold and silver? Only the metals are actually have the value, so you want the gold and silver in the coins, otherwise it doesn't have value. So
There's still people like that. There's like
So I have an uncle. He spent his whole career in finance. He set up my retirement. He used to say, look, if you had two amounts of money, let's say you had $10,000, you put it into gold in 1970. And you had another $10,000 and you put it into General Motors stock in 1970. Which one do you think would actually be worth real money today?
General Motors.
Not the gold. There's no, the only reason people put their money into something like gold is when they're panicking and they don't know what to do with their investment because the market is doing bad. And they think that putting it into gold is a way to protect it. The problem is, when you get into a recession and everyone puts their money into gold, it creates a bubble in the gold supply.
Then everyone has.
So everyone has been speculating on the metal, and then you get a spike in the prices there, and then those prices drop off, and it's just you haven't actually done anything.
Whereas gold is not like the price of gold not rising as fast as the inflation is.
Exactly. So, I'm sure there are plenty of other people who would tell you something different, but the general advice is don't put your money in metals. These people, the farmers in particular, and as historians have been against them pretty regularly. They're like, this whole bimetallism doesn't make any sense. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the mechanics of that. I will only tell you that they also had this belief that if the country would adopt a gold and the silver standard, that somehow that would fix their problems. This is important because when we get to the 1896 election, it's going to become like a centerpiece of the campaign of populists, this idea of the gold standard. They may have had their reasons, but it wasn't really there was no reason to put all of their political capital behind it.
So you're not supposed to put it in gold, and you're not supposed to put hard cash because of inflation. And then the stock market just goes where you put it.
You need it right where it is. As my uncle put it, we're all in this for the long term. Land? No, the only way that will work is if you make is if you have a whole lot of money. What's her name? The actress from Harry Potter.
Emma Watson.
Emma Watson. She was
Said Hermione Granger.
Don't vote for her. She I read somewhere because she's like the wealthiest woman in Britain. She made so much money. She put most of her money in 3 places. One of them, what?
I thought J.K. Rowling donated all the money to charity.
One of them.
I'm not sure what she wants to do. She's studying the Harry Potter series.
One of the places that she put it was into there's a village in Switzerland that has very strict building codes. So it can't actually grow any bigger, which means there's always going to be a shortage of supply of housing, which means there's always going to be a demand for the housing, which means it was a safe investment. She buys a building in that village, and she's guaranteed it will always go up. So apparently she bought, like, I don't know, a whole block, put her money in that, and she knows that it will always be there. I mean, it's not liquid. You have to sell it if you want the money. But at least you don't have to worry about your investment going down short of, I don't know, the glacier up above melting all at once. So, those, if you have enough money, there are ways to do it. But the average person, if you're looking for a safe spot,
You bet.
what my uncle would advise is that's why you diversify your portfolio. Don't put everything in one place. Don't put all your stock in Amazon. Bad investment, Thomas. Even though you're spending all of your money there.
I'm basically paying myself.
Are there other questions? Because otherwise, this is. There is one more thing I'm going to have to do. So if you go to the to Moodle, there's something that says, I think it's a strike of 1877. It's the module we used before for Virginia and for the Revolution. There are 3 themes there. One is before, during, and after. Do I have the title right? Keep going. Okay, so before the strike of 1877, I'm going to give these 2 tables here. You're responsible for those documents. How you break them up, again, I don't care. Make sure you cover it. During these 2 tables. During the strike of 1877. So if you look at the Moodle, strike of 1877. The other documents for during.
Where before?
Again, break them up however you want, but as a group, you should be responsible for all of them. And then you can guess.
During.
So after these two tables.
There's 7 and there's 7 left.
I got his on 4.
So there's a link to strike of 1877, and then there's the documents that take after.
There's 7 of us and 6 documents. There's 7. Jacqueline, there's 7 of us, but there are 6 documents. What do we do?
You know what? I'll take one from the table.
No. I can do that.
You're gonna do all of them? Okay, cool.
I mean, if you're actually watching,
I can do the cartoon.
they're on my
What? No, but I do. Where's the cartoon?
So, 2 people have to do one of them. Could one of you get to do like number 6?
Yeah.
No,
You wanna do that?
I was gonna do 6.
You can do 6.
I'm going to do 6.
You can do 6.
Is anyone else want to do 6? We need to go what you want.
Okay, so then both you could do 5.
I'll do 6 as well.
God damn it.
I don't know what's happening. We'll figure it out. You know what? I'll just roll them.
At the same time, there might be